we've got a Q&A question from Auntie Karuna about tips on preparing for Magento certifications, whose primary language is not English. Any ideas on there?
Well, that's one for you, Vinai.
I think so. Yeah, hi, Auntie Corona. Must be related to my uncle COVID. So anyway, preparing for the Magento certification with primary languages, not English. That's a tough one. Preparing certainly is possible. The difficulty is reading the questions that will be in English, since the certification is only available in English, right? So I think the best way to prepare is to try and really improve English at the same time. All that Magento related vocabulary that's necessary to understand the questions, because the questions in all the certifications are scenario based. So you get a bunch of text and you have to be able to understand all the text in order to pick one of the right answers. So reading the question, the context about the question, and being able to process all that information to really make sense of it, and then picking the right answer is required. It's nothing that can simply be memorized. So unfortunately, I think a certain degree of English is just a requirement, just a hard requirement. And that means the certification will be easier, or just one with one big obstacle less for people who just speak English natively or who are fluent in English. I don't know, is there anything else I can say? How to prepare for certifications? I guess in my case, if I would imagine I have to take a certification in, I don't know, Japanese or whatever, that would be really tough. I would try to learn as much as I can in regards to Japanese, to be honest. I don't have a better answer, I'm sorry. I wouldn't try to memorize questions and answers. I think it's the questions, there's too much information within the scenarios to be able to memorize them.
I mean, I suppose one thing you could do is get involved in. It depends on the certification you're going for, but there are certainly study groups, and I obviously there are Magento U study groups, but obviously there could be outside of that study groups as well. If that study group primarily does it in English, then obviously that's gonna aid going through and getting familiar with the terminology and getting and expressing that terminology in English. I appreciate it's a tough one, that, because yeah, it does put you at a disadvantage just on the language side. Your knowledge might be absolutely impeccable, but you need to be able to get past the language barrier there. And I suppose my recommendation would be just to, kind of backing up what Vinai's saying there, really, is to get familiar with the language. But certainly if you were getting familiar with that within a study group, then you're around the terminology, and you are getting more familiar with that terminology as you go through the weeks of that study group. So that might be another way of doing it. But yeah, certainly trying to study with in a group that is primarily doing that in English as well, just to try and overcome that barrier, even if English isn't the main spoken language within that study group.
Yeah, one other comment on that: the Swift Otter practice test would give you an idea of, at least a higher level idea of what you'll need to know in terms of English and how to answer those questions. And I think as a developer, the majority of our work, I shouldn't say that. A lot of the work is done in English, and understanding some of those requirements in English is important. And I think as a developer, all the code, like all the comments on the PHP code is in English. The majority of the help documentation from Magento help docs is all in English. So there are some things that as a developer you're going to need to know that will be in English, and I think then navigating through that will be important.